welcome to Imagine This Stories. Guess what? As of today, I've been doing this podcast for 1 year. That's incredible. If you combine the weekly podcast plus the daily podcast I did for Lent, that's nearly 100 stories. Today, you're going to hear a true adventure of faith, courage, and the amazing things God can do through ordinary people. So sit back, relax, kick off your shoes, and for the next few minutes, imagine this. Today's story is about a real woman named Gladys Aylward, a tiny British missionary who became one of the most unlikely heroes in China. She wasn't tall, she wasn't strong, she definitely didn't get good grades in school, but God used her in a way that no one could have imagined. She was born in London in 1902. She worked as a maid and never had much money. And when it came to schoolwork, she really struggled. She barely passed her classes and really had a hard time with reading. But she loved Jesus and felt that God was calling her to be a missionary in China. A missionary school turned her away. They said, learning Chinese will be too hard for you. But Gladys didn't give up. She saved every penny she could. She bought a one-way ticket to China and took the long, dangerous trip all by herself. When she arrived, she met an older missionary, Janine Lawson, and she hung out with her. They opened an inn for travelers and called it the Inn of 8 Happinesses. Gladys served food, cared for visitors, and told people about Jesus in Chinese, a language that she taught herself. Wow. People in the village began calling her Ayweda, meaning virtuous one, which is interesting because while she was virtuous, Gladys was small. She wasn't even 5 feet tall, but she had a huge heart. She worked hard to help her village. She taught Bible stories, cared for orphans, and even helped stop an old harmful tradition called foot binding in her region. Foot binding was an old custom in parts of China where some families believed that girls should have very tiny feet to be considered beautiful and to make a good wife. But it really was a terrible tradition. Parents would take their young girls, often around 4 to 7 years old, tightly wrap their feet with cloth, bend their toes under, and keep wrapping their feet so they couldn't grow normally. Yes, this made the foot look smaller, but it was very painful. It caused broken toes, trouble walking, and lifelong health problems.
Ouch!
By the time these women grew up, many of them could only take small, painful steps. The Chinese government wanted to end foot binding, but many families continued the tradition secretly. One day, a local governor heard about this tiny but brave foreign woman who cared deeply for the Chinese people. He asked her to become an official foot inspector, a job that required a lot of courage and trust. She would have to unwrap bandages, check on the girls, teach families why this was harmful, and help end the practice. Gladys agreed, and because she did, she became respected all throughout the region. It was dangerous work. A lot of people didn't want her doing this, but Gladys did it bravely and respectfully, and it helped protect many girls. But you know what? That wasn't what she was most famous for. One morning, Gladys heard shouting and crashing coming from a local prison. It wasn't the normal prison noise. It was panic. Prisoners were rioting and fighting, destroying everything. The guards were terrified. Some prisoners were being hurt, even killed by one another. The governor sent soldiers, but none of them wanted to go inside the prison. Every time they opened a door, something flew out at them. Rocks and bowls, wood, anything a prisoner could find to throw. Finally, the prisoners barricaded themselves inside. The governor looked for Gladys. "Please," he said, "you tell the people that you serve the one true God. Go inside and stop this." Gladys was like, "What? Me? I'm a pretty little woman." But the governor shook his head. "No, the prisoners will listen to you. They trust you. If you do not go, everyone inside will die." Gladys felt her heart pounding. She was small. She had no weapon. She didn't even know what she would say. But she whispered a prayer. "Lord, if you want me to go, I will go." The guards opened the prison gate just enough for Gladys to slip inside and then slammed it shut behind her. The riot sounded like a storm. Shouting, metal clanging, fires crackling. Gladys stepped carefully over the broken bowls and smashed furniture. Suddenly, a huge prisoner, over 6 feet tall, stepped in front of her, holding an axe. His eyes were wild. His clothes were torn. Gladys froze. She said, "Oh, Jesus, help me." And then, in a steady voice, she said, "Stop this at once." The giant prisoner blinked. The room began to get a little quieter. And then one by one, the prisoners turned and stared at the tiny woman in a simple dress with a calm voice and brave eyes. Gladys looked at the man holding the axe. "Give me that weapon." And amazingly, he did. He put it in her hands, and everyone watched. The room went silent. Gladys spoke firmly. "I know you are starving. As prisoners, you have no warm clothes. You are treated like you're not even human. But fighting will not help you. If you put down your weapons, I will talk to the governor about improving your conditions." The prisoners looked at each other. Then, one by one, they lowered their weapons. They listened. They trusted her. That day, Gladys negotiated peace all by herself. Shortly after this, Gladys kept her promise. She talked to the governor, and then the prisoners received better food, clean water, and safer working conditions. Everyone in the region whispered about this tiny missionary who stopped a riot when no one else was brave enough to even try. Gladys went on to rescue over 100 orphans, leading them on foot through mountains during a war. Another story of courage for another day. She wasn't the tallest woman at all, or the strongest, or the smartest. But she trusted God with everything she had, and God used her in mighty ways. With God by her side, she was able to walk into the middle of a prison riot and bring peace. That is an amazing story. Want to hear something cool? Gladys really was tiny. Most historical accounts says she was only about 4 foot 10 inches. And the prison riot story is true and recorded by witnesses. It appears in her autobiography called The Small Woman. She became so respected that Chinese officials made her a government officer, which was incredibly rare for a foreigner and a woman. Thank you so much for listening today. You know, this story reminds us that God doesn't look for the strongest or the most talented. He looks for the people who have willing hearts. If you're small or unsure, remember, God can use anyone who's willing to say yes. Thank you so much for listening to our 1-year anniversary story, and I hope that you'll share this with other people. I look forward to talking to you again soon as we imagine this. Bye!